How's it going, everyone? It's Javi from Weather Sponge 5000. As today, we're going to take a look at our next potential winter storm that could move through the Midwest, and we'll also talk about the current potentially historic tornado outbreak we're seeing right over the southeast when it comes to the month of March. So let's begin. Let's first take a look at the long-term forecast before we go more into detail with this current severe weather outbreak that's going on right over the southeast. So we do have that potential of a winter storm developing right around the Wednesday, March 19 timeframe. This is around 90 hours out. So to first start where this will originate from, we're going to see over the next few days, it's going to snow heavily right over the Cascades as well as the Rocky Mountain ranges. In those areas, you should expect feet of snow. So definitely be prepared in the higher elevations of a lot of these areas. And if you want to go skiing, then there's certainly going to be plenty of snow out there in the higher elevations of the Pacific Northwest for you to go and enjoy skiing, which is definitely good news if you're hoping for that one last ski trip potentially before we enter the warmer months into springtime. So there is that. So there is a good time. This is a good time to go skiing, I'll say right now, but beyond that point, we will eventually see the low pressure system continue to head further eastward, and it'll encounter an unstable environment to where we could see heavy snowfall right around the western half of this storm system. And this isn't a forecast hour that is necessarily extremely far out either. There's only 90 hours out. This is less than 4 days out, and we're already seeing heavy snowfall right over Iowa, Minnesota, and into northern Kansas and Missouri. As snow events like these might be misleading when taking a look at the snowfall accumulation forecast, because I've seen 3-inch snowstorms bring a ton of havoc when it comes to the traffic conditions on the roadways. And the reason being is that the total snowfall accumulation might not be necessarily representative of how strong the snowfall rates will be, because even if you only receive 3 inches of snowfall, if that snowfall falls at a very fast clip, that could cause just insane havoc on the roadways and make driving very dangerous and treacherous throughout those areas impacted with the heavy snowfall rates, even if the total snowfall accumulation doesn't end up necessarily being very high. I think this snowstorm will be one of those scenarios where this won't be necessarily a very long duration snow event, but it certainly is expected to bring quite a heavy snowfall rate. So we should see the snowfall accumulation very high for how short of a time period it'll be snowing right over Iowa and other states right over the Midwest. And continuing to move forward with the forecast, we see the millibar pressure of this storm system is also relatively low at 985 millibars, so there could be a wind component associated with this as well, where we could see blizzard conditions at times over Wisconsin, southeastern Minnesota, and into much of Iowa as well. And Des Moines, Iowa, and surrounding areas already got impacted with a pretty significant snowstorm fairly recently, so to add another snowstorm on top of this will definitely be a lot for a lot of you guys out there. So definitely be prepared for that and continue to move forward. There is that possibility that snowfall could move as far south as Chicago and Milwaukee. Now there's still a little bit more uncertainty when it comes to that forecast, because if we were to take a look at the European model at the same time period, it's mainly bringing the snowfall well further to the north. And the reason why is that the European model doesn't expect as much cold air to really enhance this storm, as well as make that rain snow line move a little bit further southward. If we were to take a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly, we do see a decent amount of cold air associated with this low pressure system, but it's definitely different when we take a look at the GFS model. At the same time period, we see much more cold air, a stronger storm system, which allows the northerly flow to be a little bit stronger for that snowfall to impact Chicago a little bit more. And as a result, we see the snowfall impact the areas much further southward. So we're definitely going to need to pay close attention to how far this cold air will move. Taking a look back at the European model, we see that the cold air will be more at a minimum at least compared to the GFS model, where this low pressure system will be a little bit more independent from the colder air that's further northward. So it's going to take a couple of days before we can really iron out that forecast. I wouldn't say we'll get a good idea until early this week, by the time we approach Monday or Tuesday, once we really see this low pressure system come ashore right up along the California coast, because that's when we'll get a good idea of what's going on when it comes to this cold air over Canada. So definitely stay tuned by the Monday timeframe to really get a good idea if this snowfall will move further southward or not. But even if it doesn't impact areas like Chicago and Milwaukee like the European model is forecasting, this is still expected to bring heavy snowfall over places like Iowa, southeastern Minnesota, like I said with the GFS model, portions of Kansas, Nebraska, into much of Colorado, where Denver could as well get involved with snowfall. So this would still be fairly impactful for a lot of these areas, which is the reason why for areas like Iowa, eastern Nebraska, much of Kansas and Colorado, and even southeastern Minnesota, that's where I'll say the certainty is high when it comes to that possibility of heavy snowfall. So you need to prepare accordingly. In the areas where it's a bit more uncertain are areas pretty much just to the south of the Interstate 80 corridor, at least to the southeast of the Interstate 80 corridor and Des Moines, Iowa. That's where it does get more uncertain if we'll see that cold air move far south enough. So I'll definitely keep you guys updated. Chicago and Milwaukee might not be out of the woods yet when it comes to snowfall, so definitely stay tuned in those areas and surrounding areas as well for southward, because there's still that possibility you could receive accumulating snowfall from this storm system. Now, you're probably wondering how much snowfall is the GFS model forecasting. So take a look at the snowfall forecast in the GFS model. Obviously, right over the central areas of Iowa, southeastern Minnesota, and into much of Wisconsin, you easily could expect anywhere between 6 to 10 inches of snowfall if the GFS model was correct, and the European model is showing good agreement on this as well. So this could be quite significant for Des Moines as well as much of northern Wisconsin, and you could see blizzard conditions as well, like I said, with those stronger winds. So by the time we approach the late Wednesday into Thursday timeframe, that's when the worst of the snowfall should impact you guys. And in terms of how much snowfall we're seeing just to the south of those areas, it isn't much even for Chicago and Milwaukee. Most likely it'll hover right around 1 to 3 inches of snowfall in those cities if the GFS model ends up being correct. But still, that's something you want to be aware of, because like I said, even 1 to 3 inches of snowfall could cause havoc on the roadways. And I'm sure many of you guys are still hoping for that one last snowfall before the warmer months come through. Even if it's a little snowfall, it's at least something better than nothing, especially when we're at this point of the year where we can't get too greedy when it comes to snowfall when the temperatures really start rising. So there is that possibility of snowfall in those areas. Now, in terms of European models forecast, when it comes to snowfall, like I said, it's going to be further to the north, mainly impacting Iowa, while places like Chicago and Milwaukee will miss out on pretty much any snowfall accumulation in a scenario like this. So in conclusion, definitely prepare right now for a significant winter storm over Des Moines, northern Wisconsin, southeastern Minnesota. You should expect 6 to 10 inches of snow in those areas. So definitely be prepared for that. And in terms of the areas further southward into Missouri, Kansas, and eastern Nebraska, you should expect mainly, again, right around 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. Not much, but still something you want to be aware of. In terms of the current severe weather outbreak we're watching, so it is pretty late. Thankfully, the thunderstorms are beginning to wind down when it comes to their severity, but we're still seeing severe thunderstorms embedded right over Alabama at this point, and this is producing very heavy rainfall as well. So you need to be aware of the possibility of flash flooding in a lot of these areas, and not only right over these areas, but in the areas further eastward as well, as the rain continues to approach the East Coast. So definitely be prepared for that. Be prepared still for that possibility of large hail and strong winds. So definitely watch out for that. Thankfully for tomorrow, the severe weather risk will be much weaker for tomorrow. Only a slight risk right over the Carolinas into Virginia and into northern Florida and Georgia as well. But still, you want to be aware of that slight possibility of severe weather. Mainly, the biggest threat will be damaging winds and possibly a tornado, but it's still going to be a fairly low chance. So definitely watch out for that in those areas. But that's it for now, and I thank you guys for watching.